Hi, welcome to our weekly video, and this week it's going to be a bit longer than normal weeks because this week I'm going to be talking about PCG 2021 D2, which I hate technical terms, but I've mentioned it because that's how you are going to know about it or associate with it, because you've probably heard quite a lot about it and there's lots of people who've given you information about it. But what I have found is it's that information that you're getting is not really clear. It's not in plain English. It's not something you can understand. I've done a fairly lengthy write-up on it, which you may have already received, but today is just a video on what it really means for you. So first and foremost, it's guidance. It will, I think, become mandatory guidance by the ATO, and it's basically about how medical practitioners who work in their practices are taxed. So at the moment, your advisor might turn around and say, well, you can distribute to a bucket company, you can give to your wife, you can give to your kids, you can do all these things, and there's no real proper guidance as to what you can and cannot do. This then tells you what you can and cannot do. It starts from the 1st of July, but if you don't meet certain criteria, you can change the way you pay yourself and the way you pay your associates, so that by 2023 you are in accordance with those guidelines. So let's be clear, this is for medical practitioners who have a medical practice. It's not necessarily associated with contractors. So if you're a medical contractor like a GP and works in a medical practice, technically you're not covered by this guidance, but you will probably get caught up in the data matching. So what they're going to do is, because they're going to be reviewing all medical practitioners, they will probably find out information about you and how you are getting paid, simply because they've put the review process in place. So if you are a contractor and you are splitting income into bucket companies, or you're giving a fairly large share to your spouse or your children or anything like that, you will get picked up. And if you're a medical contractor, you cannot split income, no matter what your accountant is telling you, no matter what they're doing right now. I'm telling you, by the guidance that the ATO have, and written law says, if you are a medical contractor with just contracting, you cannot split your income. Now, going back to the actual guidance, okay, there are two things that the ATO are concerned about. One is how medical practitioners receive their income if they're working in the practice as well. So what they're seeing is money going to bucket companies, money going to kids, service trusts set up, various loan schemes set up so that they are beneficial to the medical practitioner for taxes. Now, there's a fine line between tax avoidance and tax evasion. And this is where they're saying, well, we're not quite sure what the rules and regulations really are. We're going to give you some guidance. If you follow these rules, you'll be okay. If you're outside these rules, we're going to have a look at your arrangement. That's basically what they're saying. So what are these rules and what are these expectations that they have? So the first one is based around, is the reason you have this arrangement because it's commercial, you're doing it because there's a real logical business reason, or it's an asset protection scheme, or something which actually makes sense? Or is it designed so that you can move profits somewhere else and get a lower tax rate? If it's a commercial transaction, they actually have no problems with it. If, however, they think it's designed specifically for tax purposes, then that arrangement is no longer commercial, and therefore they will not accept the arrangement. So let me give you a couple of examples. If you've got a medical practice and you are paying yourself a salary, the salary is low, you're paying your spouse a salary, but your spouse isn't doing too much in the business, that would be an arrangement where you have done it not because it's commercial, i.e. if that person was not your wife, would you still pay them that sum of money? Probably not. Therefore, it's a tax thing, not a business commercial transaction. So that gets caught. Things like service companies can also get caught, because if you have a service company, the logic behind the service company is, well, we're giving various work to this service company, or service entity, so that it can look after various parts of the medical practice, so that I can concentrate on my medical activities. That might be fine, but if you find that you're also controlling the service entity and you're looking after everything in there, the argument falls apart, because you're saying, I'm doing it to save time, but at the same time you're not saving time. So that's not a commercial arrangement. You're using the service company, whatever profit the service company makes goes to your spouse or your kids or a bucket company. That's going to get caught now, unless you can prove that that service company is genuinely a service company. Okay, so they're looking at rules and regulations surrounding that kind of stuff. They're looking at documentation. So they're saying, look, if you have a service company, you'd normally have documentation behind this service company. Is there any documentation behind it? If you are paying your spouse as a practice manager, but you have another practice manager too, they're going to be saying, well, can we see the contract relating to your spouse, relating to your practice manager? What are they actually doing? Can we see some evidence to suggest that they're doing that? And really, do you need 2 practice managers in your practice? Those are the sort of things that they're after when it comes to that commercialization. The next part then is actually a little bit more complex, because there's a whole bunch of calculations your accountant or we are going to have to do to see whether you are complying. What they're basically saying is, the second part is the profit that the medical practice makes. How much of that as a percentage is going to the medical practitioner? So let's take a couple of examples. You've got a GP who runs a medical practice. He's got 3 or 4 medical doctors already working for them, and they are paid on a 70-30 principle. You as a medical practitioner are paid on a 50-50 principle. Whatever profit is made in the company or the entity is then split to other members of the family or a bucket company. So the first thing you're going to possibly fail on is commercialization, because everyone else is getting paid on a 70-30, you're getting paid on a 50-50. Why? Okay, but let's say you make a commercial argument that you can do that. The next stage is you have to do the calculation. The calculation is going to say, well, I as a medical practitioner get only 50%. My other associates are getting this much. Then we do a detailed calculation. Now the calculation is going to show that you fall in one of 3 categories. A green category, which is a good category, because that category means that the ATO is quite happy with your arrangement. You don't need to do anything. Your next category is what we call amber. There's not sure whether your arrangement is good or not, so they might come back and ask you some questions. They're not saying it's wrong, they're saying, we're not sure what your arrangement is, can you please justify it? The last arrangement is the red one. Okay, that basically is telling them, if you fall in that category, they are quite concerned that your arrangement means that you are probably splitting more income to other entities or to family members, which they wouldn't expect. They want more to go to you as a medical practitioner than somebody else. Now, I want to be clear, this is for medical practitioners who are working in the medical practice. So, for example, let's say you have 2 medical practices, one where you work 2 days a week and the other one you work 3 days a week. If you change the arrangement where you only work 5 days a week in the one practice and the other practice, which is now become an investment practice, you're not doing anything there. My understanding is, and we still need to confirm this, my understanding is that the one where you're not working anymore, you can do whatever you want with, because it's now an investment business. It's not a business where you as the professional are working in. So we're looking at arrangements like that specifically with our clients. So what you've got to do is you've got to go to your accountant. He will do a whole bunch of calculations, assuming he understands those calculations, and then he's going to tell you which category you fall in. Depending on which category you fall in, you're going to have to make some decisions. If you fall in the red or amber zone, you're going to have to say, well, if I'm in red, I'm probably going to have to change something. If I'm in amber, you're going to have to say, well, if the ATO come and ask me some questions, can I answer them in a way that's going to satisfy them? If you feel that they aren't, you're going to have to make some changes. If you're in the green zone, you don't really have a problem. And that basically is an entire summary, a 10-minute summary I've given you of what those rules and regulations mean. Now, there's a lot of panic out there. People are telling you, you must change practices, you must change your arrangements, you must do this. You don't actually have to do anything at the moment. And because the ATO are giving you a transitional period of about 2023, I can't see them jumping in and climbing over everybody and saying, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, please pay a whole bunch of taxes. I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to take an approach which basically says, look, we don't like what you're doing, or we're not quite certain about what you're doing. Please sort yourself out. You've got a number of years, sort yourself out, and then we'll have a look after you've 2023 to see where you're sitting, because we've given you a couple of years to sort it out. If you haven't then sorted it out, yes, we're going to get interested. But until then, I don't think it's a time to panic. I think it's a time where you sit down with your accountant, you sit down with your advisor and say, where are we right now? What do we have to do? And how do we plan it in a way which satisfies the ATO, but still means you can minimize the tax that you're paying as much as possible. I hope this long summary has helped. Thank you. Have a great day.